So we go back to Sabetha. Um, Dad was a member of the Lions Club, which was at that time was kind of like the um, it was everything in our town because they did all the you had to cut this part out.
Okay.
They did. They all the business owners were a part of it. They would have lunches. The whole family would come to the luncheons, and they were in charge of Team Town. So all the different guys would take turns being in charge of the Team Town every week. So when it was my dad's turn to be in charge of Team Town, Gene went every week to Team Town, and I said, "Can my girlfriend and I go with you? She spend the night with me." And he goes, "Oh, I don't, that really don't allow kids in there." I said, "Oh, come on, please, 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 please." So he brought us, and we were sitting out in the foyer, and then we snuck into where the dance is. We got up and started dancing. Gene and his friends were getting mad at us. So I remember some of his friends that were girls, said, "Come on, let's get them wore out, and they'll want to go to sleep." Well, we didn't get wore out. So they came and said, "You want to dance with me?" And we'd dance with them. And then pretty soon we wore them out. And Gene he was mad at me for weeks after that. And our local drugstore was on a corner drugstore. I mean, it was all America's small towns where everybody wanted to live. It was Mayberry, USA. I walked all over town by myself. I climbed up on a bar stool and ordered a Coke and put a nickel down and got a whole big Coke. And then I heard that they put a teenage room kind of in the back with their own jukebox and stuff. So I went and I got with my girlfriends and we went back in there and we sat in a booth right across from Gene and his friends. So they got mad and told us to leave. We said, "We don't have to leave." And I was like, I was young. And, but we didn't leave. They just stayed mad, but we didn't go over there to bug them. But we don't think we ever went again, though. Probably got outlawed by the parents. Go in there. And, but then one year when the twins were born in 58, they were born 1958. It was a really exciting time. And Mom was in the hospital, and she was in the hospital, it seemed like for months, but probably was several weeks. And I would go over there and look up at the window where she was at and cry sometimes, And so I missed my mom. I was 10 years old. And then she finally got to come home because the doctor said, "You can't go home unless you've got a nurse." The babies were 5 pounds now. And they had a nurse coming. The nurse was from Kansas City. And she was grouchy. She loved babies, but she hated Gene and I. She didn't like us at all. She made us wear a mask and a shroud to go see the babies and then stand back. And we could just look at them. We were trying to see the babies. And we said, "Come on, let me hold them." They said, "Oh, you are never holding those babies. Not as long as I'm here, you're not touching those babies." So I complained to my mom, and she goes, "She won't let me hold him either." She hardly lets me hold him, and I'm her mother. And she would sit out in the front room in a rocking chair and rock one of the babies. And Gene and I would sit there and we'd stare at her. And she'd fall asleep. And we're like, "Quick, go get Mom, go get Dad, come here and see what she's asleep." So they'll fire her. And the time we got back, though, she was awake and she'd say, "Oh, good bird, good bird." So that never worked.